Well, today I decided to undertake a bit of a project, which is we're going to do an oil change on the UAZ, but all the oil changes. So engine oil, gearbox, transfer case. Well, that's not transfer case. Is that transfer case? Anyway, we're going to do an oil change. So we're going to do all the fluids. And so I've already done the transmission and the power transfer unit. I'm going to call it that, just make my life simple. Power transfer unit was full. Cool. I got half of the fluid out of the transmission. Also cool. I'll show you what the fluid looks like here in a minute. But let's see here if I actually... Oh, there's still some in the oil pan. There you go. What is that? The best I got is this is what 90 weight Soviet gear oil looks like. Not 75-90, 90 weight. Just straight 90 weight. Also, yes, that is tons of little metal particulates that I got out of both the power transfer unit and also the transmission. So that's great. Anyway, so now we're moving on to the wheels, which, yes, if you didn't know, to do an oil change on a UAZ, you also have to drain your wheels of their gear fluid, which I know that's probably not a normal thing people think about or ever have probably thought about doing. So we're going to do that. I've already taken the fill plug out on this, and I can't see the oil, so that's not a good sign. So we're going to pop this out together and see what comes out of this. At least there's something. That's a good sign. Cool. At least there's no metal shavings on this one. That's also a good start. That's not a lot of oil, though. UAZ things. I'll get back to you when I do the driver's side, and then also the rear wheels, and the pumpkin. I still have yet to figure out how to do the pumpkin. We'll figure that one out in a minute. Now, you gotta love when this happens. This one came out perfectly fine, and I already opened it. It's very overfull, but it's probably fine. That one I didn't realize was already stripped out. So I put my thing in it, and it just spun, and I was like, huh? So I looked at it with a light. This one I think somebody tried to remove in the past and couldn't. So we're just gonna leave that be. I'm gonna empty it through this because I got a little transfer pump over there, so I'm just gonna suck all the fluid out of this, and I'll refill it and call it a day. Well, here we are about an hour later. I did try to remove the bottom plug here. I tried grinding a 17 flats onto it, and, well, I tried 11/16 first, and that spun, and then I went down to 17, that spun, gave up, put a chisel on it, and I broke the nut. That thing is in there, so I'm probably going to have to drill it out and just put a hole in it, and then put a plug in that hole, and that plug is there forever. So in the meantime, we've been doing this, like I originally thought I was going to be doing. However, the little hose keeps getting clogged. I don't know what is in this, because that's not gear oil. And as far as I know, this thing was never driven. So that makes me concerned that that is chunks of rust and waterlogged gear oil from the 1980s. Oh. Alright, so this is about 30 minutes later, and as you can see here, we got like 5 different shades of brown out of the differential here. And when it got to this kind of like really dark brown that looks like basically like the fluid itself, it's not really foggy, it's mostly clear. When it got to that and the pump sputtered a little bit, I decided to just call it and move on to filling it. And instead of using the very fancy GL5 7590, which this just calls for 90 weight, no other information, just 90 weight. We don't make that anymore. Also, for people who own classic cars, don't put GL5 in things. Just don't. I'm doing this because this is all steel. Everything in this car is steel. If you have brass anything, GL5 hates brass, and it will dissolve it. So don't do that. But since this thing is a UAZ, and well, there's no brass, it's all steel, cast, and other sorts of Soviet metal components, I can get away with just putting this in here because I had 6 quarts of this laying around from a car I used to own that I no longer own, and this I never did get around to actually changing the oil in, so I just had this spare stuff laying around. So this is just what's going in all the parts of the UAZ, which I filled that guy, which, by the way, if you're curious, that thing only takes like 300 milliliters of fluid. They don't take a whole lot of fluid. Like, these things are like basically like tiny little reservoirs. They're hilariously tiny. But instead of putting this in it, which is very expensive, I have a lot of this mobile Delvac laying around because I own a diesel now. And at work, I mean, I'll just say at work, this stuff is actually what we put in a bunch of our gearboxes for our pumps. I don't know why, but when you look at the actual tag on the side of the pump, it calls for 15 weight 40, and it specifically says Delvac. It specifically says Delvac 1540 as the oil. So I know this stuff works decently as a gear oil, and so it's not going to bother me putting this in here and not expending the fancy of like $12 per liter versus the, $15 per bottle diesel oil. And besides, this stuff has a whole bunch of dispersants and solvents in it. Well, not solvents, I shouldn't say that. It's basically dispersants and
detergents, anti-wear additives, friction modifiers, antioxidants, anti-foaming additives, corrosion inhibitors, viscosity index improvers.
Words, oil words. It has stuff that breaks down deposits. In other words, if I run this in this for like 50 to 60 miles, drive it around a little bit, and then empty it out again, theoretically, most of that should be gone, and then I can put the fancy stuff in there. Maybe. Just for fun, I thought we could do one together, and I already took the fill plug out, and always a good start when your fill plug has like jellified oil on it. As Mr. Jennings Motorsports would say, I believe it is turning back into dinosaurs. So, you gotta love Soviet stuff. But if you're curious, this is all it is. Just many plugs like this where you take them out and then you get that out of it. Yummy. Still don't know if that's what color it's supposed to be. But hey, at least some of them actually, I get fluid out and not like mud. Again, though, these things take like nothing for oil. Also, it doesn't help. I think it's leaked most of the oil out over the years. So, I'm just filling it to the fill port because that's what it says to do in the instructions. I'll trust the translated manual. I'm sure it's pretty accurate. Besides, I mean, if you've ever done gear oil changes before, almost every time you put into the lower fill port or the lower section of the fill port, it's almost always that way. That's how you measure the fluid. In rare occasions, it does tell you to put a pre-filled amount in. This time it does not, so we're just going to go with the age-old, tried and true method that it also says in the English translated manual, fill to the bottom of the port. But, Also, smell-o-vision here actually really wouldn't help because this stuff actually really doesn't have much of a smell. It really doesn't. I don't know how to describe it. It's not like a gear oil smell. Because I know the modern gear oil smell comes from most of the sulfur and the additives in it, but this just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's not really a gear oil smell. It's also not really slippery. It's kind of tacky. Yeah, I don't think that's quite right. Well, now let's fill it together. So I've already punched a hole in this. We're going to go ahead and turn this on. We're going to prime it. As you can see here, we got some nice new gear oil going in. We got the engine oil coming out here in a second. It's a long hose. What do you want? So do that for a minute until the nice shiny gear oil comes out, and you lose the tube and just throw it everywhere. Don't worry about that. That's why I'm working on cardboard. Turn this off. Grab our tube. Drag it over here. It's very hard to do when everything is in your way because you have cleaning supplies, cardboard, and other breaker bars and stuff. There we go. Now we just gotta shove this in here. There you go. No, stay in there. Stay. Now you turn this on, and then we just fill it. Also, you can't see it right now, but the mud flap is in my armpit, so this is a really comfortable position to be working in. There you go. And now it's filled. Now I'll grab the hose, pull it out of there. As you can see, it's lovely stuff in there. Grab my fill plug. And boop. No, I don't know. This is really hard with my left hand. I'm semi-ambidextrous, but I also am trying to look through the camera at this, which I'm sure is probably not the smartest idea to do this. There you go. There you go. And that's it. Nice and easy. Just like that. There you go. And there you go. And we've done it. Now all I do is just snug this up and I'm done. Well, dang, it turns out this is the one I should have been filming. I broke both of these free. This one was really iffy. I just gently tried to turn it a little bit at a time with the wrench. I managed to get it out without actually stripping it or even rounding any of the squares. So, hell yeah. Loosen both of them. Take out the fill plug always first. And, man, you missed it. It blew up in my face. It literally went poof. That's not a good sign. Why was this pressurized? That shouldn't be pressurized. Just UAZ things, I guess. I hope that one's not the same way. Okay, so I got a little funny one for you. You can definitely see the Soviet cost savings in action with these windows, which are basically you take it and you flip it over that way. So that back one is this front one is that back one, that front one, this back one's that front one. It's funny, you can see a lot of the cost savings going on with these cars, especially on these doors, which are the same way. However, I have just discovered something that I was not anticipating, and it actually made me chuckle. We're down here at the rear axle, right? So as you can see, this is a weird split differential. You have to take this apart and split the axles basically in half to take this apart. Anyway, something funny I noticed is since the back is in the center, these axle tubes are the same length. I didn't notice this. Casting on this side, plug, plug. Casting on that side, plug over there, plug down there. The casting is backwards because they're the same casting. That is comical. I didn't notice that. Fucking Soviets. Well, so small update. As I crawl under the car again, because why would I crawl under before starting filming? Who'd do that? So that one blew out at me. This one blew out at me. And both of these guys were overfull to the point where both drain plugs, with both drain plugs out, I should say, they were draining. Which means that these gearboxes at the end were overfilled with fluid. Well, that's interesting. So I took the fill plug out of this guy. I didn't try taking the drain plug out because it's just, this is the back end. So as you can see, it's very rusty. I didn't want to try too hard with it. I took this out and I looked in it and it's empty. I couldn't imagine where all that fluid went. In any case, if that means the fluid from this went there, that means that stupid breather right there is not working anymore. Well, obviously, we can't end the night with I'm doing a what's in my oil drain pan before wrapping up, which I know I still have to do the engine oil, but come on, we want to see what that sweet gear oil looks like first, don't we? I'm sure it's going to be really good. Ah, look at that. That is a forbidden milkshake. Look at all those metal shavings in there. Oh, that looks really nice. You can pretty much see all the... Oh my god, there's so many metal shavings. Oh no. Oh no, it's such a milkshake too, on top of the metal particulates in there. I don't know if you can see these. There are little tons of tiny metal particulates in it. Oh, sad UAZ day, sad day.